The eastern shores of Croatia are filled with a plethora of islands, large and small. Known as the Dalmatian Coast from all of the islands spotted throughout, it is home to 79 fun-filled islands, isles, and rocky flats to visit. Some are inhabited by locals or luxury hotels that cater to busy tourists. Others receive occasional visits from swimmers, campers, and those wishing to hike in solitude. Between the islands and the busy town of Dubrovnik, Croatia's largest tourist attraction has no problem drawing in people from all over the world. All of the islands receive thousands of visitors every year. That is, except for one. Located just 2 miles from the country's capital dwells one of the smaller islets that for centuries was home to a beautiful monastery, but is now avoided and shrouded in a fog of horror. The island of Daksa was first inhabited in 1281 when a Franciscan monastery was built on it called Saint Sabina. The monks were the island's sole inhabitants and brought in spiritual leaders from all over Europe. For over 500 years, Daksa was seen as a sacred and holy place. That would be until Napoleon's French troops came to Croatia in 1789, evicted the monks, and claimed the island. They held on to it until the defeat of Napoleon, and the island was bought by a Polish prince named Maximilian, who spent a fortune converting the island into his little paradise on earth. He imported beautiful trees and flowers, exotic birds such as peacocks, and altered the monastery into his library. He wanted Daksa to be an escape from the rest of the world. Unbeknownst to him, the night before their expulsion from the island, the Franciscan monks placed a curse on it, and all who have forsaken their sacred ground. Maximilian renovated the island until his execution after agreeing to take the crown of Mexico. His trees, paths, and birds that he had imported can still be found on Daksa to this day. Was his execution just his fate, or was he a victim of a curse left by the monks? Throughout the years, the island passed hands with several different owners. Some wanted to build military towers, and others wished to live on the island. And in the 19th century, a villa was built but shortly abandoned. Aside from the remains of the monastery, unfinished military towers, and the villa, the only other manufactured things on the island are the smallest lighthouse of the Adriatic Sea and a memorial garden. The monks' curse seemed to be a success, as anyone who ventured to the island didn't stay long. It wouldn't be until 1944, in the middle of World War II, that the island would be home to its next inhabitants, the bodies of over 50 locals who were executed and left to rot on the shores of Daksa. In 1944, Croatia was still part of Yugoslavia and gave one of the most vigorous resistance to Germany and its supporters during the war. Even after Italy abandoned them to be picked off, they still resisted and eventually celebrated the war's end. During the following months, Yugoslavian Parisians began hunting out individuals suspected of Nazi sympathy. In October of 1944, they arrived in Dubrovnik and rounded up 53 locals, including the town's priest and the mayor, Niko Koprivica. There was no judge or jury, only an executioner. No evidence was brought forth, and locals could do nothing as their loved ones were brought to the shores of Daksa Island. Between the 18th and 24th of October, a firing squad executed all 53 suspected sympathizers, and their bodies were left unburied to be picked clean by scavenger birds. Also among the first victims were 3 Franciscan monks. They were stripped and then forced to dig their own graves. They died singing praises to their Lord. The crimes were justified as retribution for the oppression felt during the war, and locals were warned not to attempt to recover their loved ones' bodies or they would meet the same fate. You know how it feels to declutter and clean the place you live? Sometimes I put it off, and things get messy and feel bogged down. But when I finally get everything cleaned, it feels so much better. So renewed. Same with my mind and emotions. Talking to a therapist from Talkspace helps declutter my mind. And I get that same renewed feeling deep down. I feel so much more clear-headed and calm. Talkspace is a new, more convenient way to find a therapist and meet with them. Everything is done online. You find a therapist you feel closest to and meet virtually, wherever you're most comfortable on your schedule. So there's no missed work or scheduling childcare for an appointment. It's therapy designed for your life. Finding a therapist can feel overwhelming, but Talkspace takes the pressure off that first step. Talkspace is the more flexible, convenient, and affordable way to get high-quality care. Talkspace has thousands of therapists with all kinds of specialties. There's someone who's exactly right for you. And Talkspace makes it easy for you both to connect. Talkspace is private, secure, affordable, and your Talkspace therapist is always accessible to you. When you've met your therapy goals or simply want to cancel, Talkspace has a simple cancellation process and will work with you to get a prorated refund for unused time, if applicable. Talkspace is there for you to make your life better. Looking to renew and rejuvenate your life? Look to Talkspace. And now get $100 off your first month when you go to Talkspace.com/hidden to match with your dedicated therapist. Go to Talkspace.com/hidden now to get $100 off. Talkspace.com/hidden. There's nothing worse than going to a doctor's appointment expecting to be the center of attention, and then your doctor seems like they have better things to do and better places to be. Instead of listening to you intently, asking you how you feel and helping you along, the doctor is checking the clock. On ZocDoc, you'll find quality doctors who focus on you, listen to you, and prioritize your care. ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available whenever you need them and treat almost every condition under the sun. When you're not feeling your best and you're just trying to hold it together, finding great care shouldn't take up all your energy. That's where ZocDoc comes in. Using their free app that millions of users rely on, you can find the right doctor that meets your needs and fits your schedule. Book an appointment with a few taps in their app and start feeling better faster with ZocDoc. Go to ZocDoc.com/hidden staircase and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/hidden staircase. ZocDoc.com/hidden staircase. On Sunday, the 29th of October, posters appeared all over the city that contained the proclamation of the verdict for the civilians who were all sentenced to execution by the firing squad. It was also announced that they were found guilty of treason after a thorough investigation and interrogation of witnesses. And finally, their trial. However, locals knew that it was all a lie. Daksa Island quickly fell into local lore as the unholy island of ghosts, something it's still called to this day. During the executions, the island's only inhabitants were the lighthouse keeper and his family. They were all moved from Daksa twice during the killings, but were allowed to return. It is said that the family could hear the screams and cries of the victims at night while they attempted to sleep, never knowing if they were real screams of people being shot or the spiritual cries of the residual energies. The lighthouse keeper's children were eventually too afraid to remain on the island, especially after stumbling across decaying bodies while playing one afternoon. They all relocated to the mainland shortly after threats to not disclose any information about what happened on Daksa. For almost 50 years, it was strictly forbidden for anyone to visit Daksa. It wouldn't be until the Croatian parliamentary elections in 1990 that socialist laws were changed and the locals could finally visit. But they never did. Daksa would sit for another 2 decades until, in 2009, an excavation was done on the island. During this, 2 mass graves were discovered, and the bones of 53 men, ages 20 to 70, were found. Along with the bones, rosaries and crosses were also found. Some of the bodies had wire wrapped around their arms and legs. All of the skulls revealed that everyone was killed by close-range bullets, with some having several impact wounds. The men had all been stripped of their underwear and shot in the head. Out of all the bodies found on Daksa Island, 18 have been successfully identified, thanks to DNA samples taken from locals. Today, Daksa Island remains for sale, and locals still avoid it at all costs. They're even warning tourists to stay away. No evidence has ever proven that any residual energies are haunting the island. Nevertheless, the cries of those executed have been carried on the wind of local lore and live on as a warning for anyone wishing to visit. If anyone ever does want to visit Daksa Island, good luck finding a boat to take you there. The spirits and curse that remain in the shade of the overgrown pines are always waiting for the next brave person to stay a while.